أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن استنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, we begin by saying the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we send our salam and salawat on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We'll start by saying that and make a dua for our beloved Sheikh Yusuf, who is having some issues with his wife's health, and so she's going under some treatment. Inshallah, I have spoken to him. It's all going to the good side. It should be fine. But let's make dua for him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for him, and bring him back inshallah in the masjid as soon as possible. As Sheikh Yusuf was going through the series of the life of the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhu, so I spoke to him that I will continue the series. So today, in our short time, we're going to talk about another Sahaba, the life story of another famous Sahaba. And inshallah we'll try to get some benefit, some wisdom from the life story of that great Sahaba. So this Sahaba that I'm going to talk about, everybody know his name. Of course, he's not the one of the four that we talked about, that Sheikh has already talked about, Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, and Ali. He always spoke about them. So there's another Sahaba who is very famous, and everybody know his name. So we'll talk about him today. But before we do that, let's ask a question to our brothers. Because as you've been going through the stories of the life, how many of you know the 10 Sahaba that are promised paradise? The name of the 10 Sahaba. If you know, raise your hand, you'll get a prize. Yeah, brother Samsuha.
First four Khalifa.
Yes.
Abdul Rahman ibn Auf.
Yeah.
Zubayr ibn Awam.
Yes, good.
Talha.
Yeah, 7. Okay, you got 7 so far.
8. Sorry.
7 only. Yeah.
I cannot remember.
Yeah. So anybody else? 10?
Zaid bin Thabit?
No.
Oh,
Zaid.
Zaid ibn.
No. There's no Zaid.
Maryam.
No, 10 Sahaba, brother. Who came after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. So it's the 4 Khalifa. Abu Bakr, we should all know this name, brother. There are 10 promised paradise, okay? We know the names of 10 cricketer, 10 Hollywood star, Bollywood star, whatnot, And these are the people, we should follow them, Subhanallah, we don't know. Of course, it is not, farad to know these names, so nobody can blame you that you're sinful, but it's the love of our things.
CHD41Q. Someone first time
It's not my car. It's not
VW, Volkswagen, CHD.
Alright, it's not my car, but I'll move it.
Okay, that's good.
It's not your car, it's mine.
Okay, so let's begin the names, okay, very quickly. So Abu Bakr, okay, Umar, Osman, and Ali. Then after this, easy to remember. Okay, so after this 4, you have 6 left, and these 6 you say by name in twice. Say Talha and Zubair, they are friends. Whenever you heard a hadith about Talha, Zubair will come there too. So Talha and Zubair are they're very close friends. So Talha and Zubair, so it's 6. Then there's 2 names which start with S. Okay, one is Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas and one is Sa'id ibn Zayd. Not Zayd ibn Sa'id, Sa'id ibn Zayd. So Talha Zubair is 6. Then 8 is 7 and 8 is Sa'id ibn Zayd and also Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. Then the last 2 start with A. Abu Ubaidah Amir ibn Jarrah and Abdul Rahman ibn Auf. Okay, so these are the 10 promised Sahaba. But the Sahaba that I'm going to talk about today is all well known to you. All the kids know about him. He's no other than Bilal radhiyallahu anhu. The Bilal radhiyallahu anhu. So we'll talk about Bilal, and there's a reason I picked Bilal. I'll tell you after that, because obviously everybody knows that Bilal was a slave. Okay, he was a slave. So what does Islam talk about the slavery? How does Islam look at it? Okay, so I'll talk about it after we finish the life story of Bilal ibn Rabah. So Bilal ibn Rabah, as you all know, that he was an Abyssinian. But interestingly, he was born in Mecca. Okay, he was not born in his Abyssinia, meaning Ethiopia now. He was not born there. And it was said that his mother came with the army of Abraha. The Abraha, the king, who came and tried to destroy the Kaaba with the elephant. So in that group, her mother was there. Maybe she was, a group of them, part of them. So she stayed back and she married with another person. That person is also not from Makkah. He was from Abyssinia, but he came before Makkah. So they were the parents of Bilal ibn Rabah. And Bilal was born, as I said, in Makkah, and he was probably the same age of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, so which is very similar to the age of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, maybe 1 year younger or 1 and 2 years younger than that. So Bilal, we don't know the exact story of how he accepted Islam. Okay, we have other stories after he had accepted Islam, but at what point he accepted Islam, what's the incident, we don't know about that. But we know one story from the narration that one of the person came from the Najran place, and he asked Rasulullah once he became prophet that what is a Nabi? He didn't even know what is Nabi. So Prophet Nabi is a person that accepts revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, what is revelation? So Rasulullah said revelation is something that the kalamullah, the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he asked, who are your followers? So at that answer, Prophet Muhammad said, a hurun and one an abdun, meaning hurun means a free man and a slave. So at that time when Prophet said the answer, he's saying he has two followers. One is a free man and one is a slave. Obviously the free man is no other than Abu Bakr, and the slave is Bilal radiallahu anhu. Bilal radiallahu anhu. And obviously he didn't mention his family because Khadija is already part of his family, so he didn't mention the name of Khadija. So from that we know that Bilal is one of the persons who accepted Islam very, very early in the time. And once he accepted Islam, for the first 2 or 3 years, he kept it secret to himself. Because there's only few people, okay? But, he's the only person, as narrated by other Sahaba in the stories, in the hadiths, that he never ever, when it came out in public that yes, he's accepted Islam, he never ever said something that they want him to say. And his master was Umayy ibn Khalaf. Umayy ibn Khalaf was one of the worst enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are a lot of enemies, of Rasulullah in the Quraysh, okay? But some of them are really, really nasty and dirty-minded. One of them was Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab and this Umayy ibn Khalaf. Umayy ibn Khalaf is the one who collected all the dung and everything from the camel's intestine, and he put on the top of the head of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he was like a very nasty character person. So when he came to know that Bilal has accepted Islam, and he said, how can you accept Islam? You are my slave. You have no right to accept or reject anything. And then Bilal said, no, I listened to the message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I accepted this. And then he started torturing him, because at that time the slave has no law. So and you all know the stories that he used to tidy up his hand and put it in the sun and put the stone on the chest. And every time he used to say, Qul Allat al-Uzza, say Allat al-Uzza, the devil. And at that answer, Bilal used to say Ahadun Ahad, Ahadun Ahad. And at that time, slowly in 2-3 years time, there are other people who accepted Islam, like Ammar, the parents of Ammar, Yasir and Sumayya, also Miqdad, all these people, they are also from the same class. The Shuayb and Rumi, all these people are from the same class. But Abdullah ibn Masud said it in a narration later on, all of these people, at some point of their life, they had put their head down, meaning sometimes they give up. So, and it is completely allowed, And as you know, the famous story of Ammar, when they caught him and then they said, you have to say bad things about Prophet Muhammad, and he had to say that. And then he was very, very upset because he said something bad. And Prophet told him, Ammar, when you said that, did you say it from your heart? He said, no, Rasulullah, in my heart I always love you, okay? But I say it because they are torturing me. And Ammar was a young man at that time, he couldn't handle it. So every person, every slave plus people, at some point of time, they had knocked down their head for a moment. And that is completely allowed in the Sharia at that time, no problem. But for Bilal, never ever. And they used to say that, the Umayy ibn Khalaf, his master used to put him a armor, like a iron armor, and put him on the sun. Because when the iron gets hot, his skin used to burn. But still, Bilal never ever, say a single thing that is against Islam or against the Aqidah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when one day Abu Bakr was passing through him, and he said, what are you doing with this slave? So to Umayyah ibn Khalaf, and he started bargaining with Umayyah that, I want to buy this slave, from you. And then Umayyah started bargaining with him, and at one point with 7 uqiyah means like 7 uqiyah means almost 280 dirham. So, and that was a big price at that time for a slave. So Abu Bakr bought Bilal with that price, and since then, Bilal was always with Prophet Muhammad. Never ever Bilal left Prophet Muhammad at all for a single time. Any journey Prophet was anywhere, Bilal was always with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was a quick life story of Bilal in Makkah. When he left Medina, and because Bilal was born in Makkah, he had a very good Arabic language. His dialect was very pure, okay, and that's why he could even versify poetry in Arabic. Because poetry was, one of the most popular thing in the Arabs. We all know that. Okay, so when he went to Medina, all of the muhajirun fell sick, okay, and they had high fever. And some of the scholars later on say, in our time it's kind of like malaria, because Medina was with moist weather, okay, not like dry and like Makkah. So whatever, everybody falls sick. And Aisha Radhiyallahu mentioned this hadith that she went to the room, because that time there no hijab rule applied. So she went to the room where Abu Bakr, her dad, and Bilal was sleeping. And out of the sickness, Bilal was about to die, and he was versifying poetry. That, oh Allah, take me to my land back, where I used to have the water, where I had the shade of the tree. So he's all these nice places of Makkah he's talking about in his poetry. Okay. Once Aisha heard it, she felt bad, and she went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said, this is what Bilal is saying. He's in pain. He's versifying poetry. After hearing this, Prophet sallallahu said, and he raised his hand to Allah subhanahu wa taala. He said, oh Allah, take all the diseases from Medina and throw it in another place, far from Medina. Okay, he made this dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he said, oh Allah, put the love of Medina in us more than we love Makkah. And that's why that all the Muslims, whoever has iman in this little bit of iman in their heart, even if they go to Makkah and Medina, there's a special love, there's special affection and special attraction to Medina for all the Muslims, because Prophet Muhammad made this dua, and Bilal is inspired because of his poetry. Rasulullah inspired this one. So in Medina, as I said, Bilal was always with Prophet. He became basically a constant companion of him. Even at one point he became the doorman of Rasulullah. In the incident of where Rasulullah had an issue with his wives, and he was in his room by himself. So Omar came to see Rasulullah, and Omar see Bilal is standing on the door, and Omar couldn't enter the door unless he needed permission. So he asked Bilal, oh Bilal, go inside and ask Rasulullah if I can go enter. So Bilal could go, but Omar couldn't go. So imagine the honor of Bilal at the end. So he went there, he went 3 times, and after the 3 times Rasulullah let him to enter there. Also, we know from another very important story of Bilal that one time in Makkah, towards the end life of Makkah, the group of Quraysh, the people who are leader of the Quraysh, they came to Abu Talib. So Abu Talib was still alive at that time. And they say to Abu Talib, we can sit down and talk to your nephew, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we can think about the matter. So that was a very, very, prosperous sign from the Quraysh leaders, okay? But they have only one condition. They say there are 4 people, we have to get rid of these 4 people, because they are slaves. And they were like Bilal, Suhaib al-Rumi, Mikhdar and Ammar. They said, these 4 people, if you get rid of these people, because we Quraysh, we are the leader. We are the sheikh of the Quraysh. We can't sit down with the slave people. So if you get rid of them, we can think about the thing, that is your proposal about Islam and all these things. So this proposal was taken to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some of the people, including some narrations, including Abu Bakr and Umar, they said, Bilal and other people, they won't mind, Ya Rasulullah. Tell them to go away from us. They will do a sacrifice, because if the people of the Quraysh, your uncles, your relatives become Muslim, will be more happy. Okay, so if you tell them, they will probably. So there was a positivity from the Sahaba that they may accept this proposal. Okay, but at that time, Allah subhanahu wa taala revealed in the Quran praising these people. Allah subhanahu wa taala said to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Surah Al-An'am, He said, if you not look at them properly, the way you should look at them, and if you leave them to go away from you, then you will be among the Zalimin. You will be among the Zalimin. And in another surah, Surah Al-Kahf, actually Allah said, Fasbir ala nafsaka, meaning you have to be patient with these people. They are the people, they're praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please His face. Just to look at Allah's face, they're doing it day and night. And how can you can say that they will go away? And when this ayah revealed, Rasulullah forgot about this proposal completely, and then he went and sit down with Bilal, sit down with Mikdad, because Allah said, be patient with them and be compassionate with all these people. And that's what Prophet did, because Allah praised these people from the safe class. Also, when Prophet went to Makkah after the Medina, so when Fatih Makkah happened, when he conquered the Makkah, at that time also, when Bilal and he saw, because Abu Sufyan at that time, he became Muslim at that time, because those are the last batch. So after the Fateh Makkah, there's no other option. And Rasulullah forgive all the people of the Makkah, and they are slowly accepting Islam. And at that time, Abu Sufyan also accepted Islam. So Abu Sufyan was talking to some other people, and Bilal and Miqdad and Suhaib, they are standing there, and they say something. They say, Allah's sword still hasn't done the justice on the neck of the enemy of Islam. Meaning, in their heart, they are not accepting that, Abu Sufyan became Muslim after so many things that he has done. Because he has done in Badr and Uhud and all these things. So they are, they are not very happy that Abu Sufyan at the end became Muslim, okay? So it's just their feeling, they just said it. So when they said it, Abu Bakr was there. So Abu Bakr said, how can you, Bilal, how can you say about this, about the leader of the Quraysh? And he is Muslim now. You cannot say this, sir. So Abu Bakr raised his voice on Bilal. So Bilal and Miqdad and all these people went to Prophet Muhammad and they said, this is what happened. Abu Bakr raised his voice because of this and this. Rasulullah called Abu Bakr. And you all know who is Abu Bakr. He's the best person after the Anbiya, for this ummah. But he called Abu Bakr and he said, oh Abu Bakr, I think you made your ikhwan, meaning your brothers, angry. And if you make them angry, then you make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry. When he said that, Abu Bakr rushed to Bilal and to the other people and say, oh my brother, you are my companion, you're my brothers, and forgive me if I have annoyed you and irritated you. I'm telling this one, these narrations are in Bukhari actually. This is very, very authentic narration. So the maqam of Abu Bakr, the maqam of Bilal actually, how he was. And obviously the greatest blessings of Bilal is, he is the muazzin, the first muazzin of Islam. When the revelation came, and this revelation, this is the only thing that came into the dream for our Sharia. Our Sharia, everything came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, either from the Quran or from the Hadith, from the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But this thing, the adhan, this is the only thing that was legislated through a dream, and not a dream in Prophet Muhammad. It's a dream by another Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Zayd. Abdullah ibn Zayd saw the dream, and he rushed to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, I saw this dream. And this azan is the only thing that was never done in previous prophets. So they didn't have this calling of prayer before. Yes, the Jewish and the Christian, they have different thing. But for the other prophets, previous prophets, they never had this something called azan. Okay? So when it's legislated, on Abdullah ibn Zayd said, I saw this dream, and in the dream, some two people came and told me, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, this is how we should call people. Right where Rasulullah said, it is a true dream, and then call Bilal. So Bilal was not even there. And he is the one not even having seen the dream. But Prophet called Bilal, because he knew that he has the strongest and the beautiful voice among all the Sahaba. And he said, Bilal, teach Bilal the wording that you learned, and he will be the muazzin. And there never ever, nobody else give adhan in the life of Rasulullah when Bilal was present. There was another muazzin, Abdullah ibn Abu Maktum, the blind man. You know the story of the blind man, right? Abasa wa tawalla. So he was a blind man in Medina. So he was also a muazzin, but a replacement muazzin. When Bilal was outside with Prophet Muhammad in a journey, so he used to give adhan. Also, the adhan of the Fajr, in the Fajr Salah, there's two adhan. Even in Makkah now, if you go to Umrah and Hajj, there's two adhan in Makkah and Medina, both places, and some other Islamic countries also, they have two adhan for Fajr. So in the two adhan, the first adhan is for the people to know that this is the time of suhoor, you have to finish your tahajjud now, get ready for Fajr, all these things, okay? So that adhan was given by Abdullah ibn Maktum. But the real Fajr adhan, the adhan for the Fajr prayer, is given by Bilal. And all lifelong, Bilal used to do this one. Another great blessings of Bilal after the Muazzin, there is the famous hadith that Rasulullah said, "Oh Bilal, what do you do that I hear your voice in a dream, obviously. I hear your voice in a dream that your footsteps are ahead of me in Jannah." That doesn't mean that he's gonna be more ahead of Jannah in Rasulullah. It means that Rasulullah in the dream he heard that footstep of Bilal, meaning he's already in Jannah. So Rasulullah, what do you do? So Bilal answered that Ya Rasulullah, I don't know what extra I do, but only thing I remember that whenever I break my wudu, I right away go and make my wudu, and every time I do wudu, I pray 2 rak'ah of salah. And Rasulullah said, yes, this is because your footstep I can hear in the Jannah. So when Prophet ﷺ passed away, in the month of Rabiul Awwal, obviously he passed away on the Monday, and Prophet was buried on Wednesday. So at that time, the Wednesday Zuhur time, that is the time, the Zuhur prayer, and everybody asked Bilal to give adhan. So he was giving adhan, and he said, Ashhadu anna, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. When he said Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, he started crying, and everybody with him was crying, because everybody is thinking that about the Prophet is not among them anymore. And after that event, he said to Abu Bakr, because Abu Bakr became the Khalifa, he said, Ya Abu Bakr, I'm not going to be staying in Medina anymore, because it's going to be very difficult for me. Because he is so much, in touch with Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He used to bring the water for his wudu, he used to bring his, the prayer mat, and whatever thing he could do, his food, everything, his sandals, everything he used to do for Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he was like a constant secretary, you can say, in our language, all the time with Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he asked permission from Abu Bakr, that because you are the one who bought me from my slavery, so if you let me know, if you bought me for the sake of Allah, let me go, and I will go in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning I'll go for jihad. So Bilal, he went to Syria at that time, and he was in constant, in jihad, because a lot of battle was happening, the battle of Yarmouk, and all this thing happening in Syria and the Sham with the Roman people. So he participated there. And when Abu Bakr passed away very soon, in 2 years' time, when Umar became the Khalifa, Umar, very quickly, Umar conquered the Masjid al-Aqsa, Bayt al-Aqsa, right? And when he went to Bayt al-Aqsa, and he was given the key from the Emperor Hercules, and then he took the key and he went to the Bayt al-Maqdis, and he called for Bilal. He said Bilal should be the one who should come and give the adhan. And then Bilal was found, and he came and he gave the adhan in Masjid al-Aqsa. Imagine the blessings of Bilal. He is the first person to give adhan in the Masjid of Rasulullah in Medina. He is the first person to climb on top of the Kaaba and give the adhan. No other man in the history ever has done that. He is standing in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and giving adhan. And also the third masjid in Islam, the great valuable Masjid al-Aqsa, even there also Bilal went and gave the adhan. And it was said that same thing happened there also. All the Sahaba, because it's almost at the 14 or 15 years later, Prophet passed away. So when he gave the adhan, his voice is completely attached with the memories of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So when he gave adhan, everybody break down in the tears in the memory of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There was another story. It was narrated, but there's some weakness in the story. But it's nothing wrong to describe that, He once came back to Medina in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab before he passed away. And Bilal passed away in the year 17 Hijrah. So very early on. So when Rasulullah passed away, only 7 or 8 years later he passed away basically. So he came once to Medina just to visit. And that time Hassan and Hussein were there. And they were heard that Bilal is here. So they went to Bilal, they hugged him, they kissed him. And they said, we request you to give the adhan one more time. And that was the last time, as mentioned, that he gave adhan. And after that, he went back to Syria and he passed away in Syria. There is a cover, but this is not authentically narrated because this is his cover. But there is a cover if you go in Syria now. In Damascus, there is a place that says the cover of Bilal is there. And then this is how he passed his life. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to meet Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his constant companion Bilal radiallahu anhu. The next topic that I'm going to talk about very quickly today, because I said Bilal was a slavery and it is a slave class, okay? How does Islam look at slavery? And this is a question a lot of people ask, okay? Because why didn't Islam came with all these good things, right? So why didn't it demolish slavery? How can we have slaves in your Islam? So to answer this question, you have to look into the history, because slavery is something that was in every nation, in every civilization. There is no other civilization that didn't have slavery. The Roman civilization, the Chinese civilization, the Greek civilization, the Indians, every civilization has slavery. What Islam did, Islam brought some laws in the slavery that no other civilization did before. So there was no law for slaves. You can do anything with your slave. But for Islam, when Islam came, it brought a set of laws that this is what it should be done. The first thing that Islam, I'm just going to mention 2 or 3 points. The first thing that Islam did, that the slave, as we say, the word slavery actually in the English is not the right word, the Arabic word, it's not the same thing. Slavery, whenever you say slavery, it is something that you think about, some black man, tied up hands and everything. This is not the right word. The right word in Arabic is called, either rik, it's rik, or it's called ama. Ama means, the malakat aymanikum, like someone right hand possesses. Okay, so Islam, what the first rule he made, Islam, that the source of slavery is only from one source, and that is the prisoner of war who are not ransomed. So you're going somewhere and you're fighting with this group and you win the battle. So you have prisoner of wars, and there are some prisoner of wars. There's nobody is coming to ransom them. So only this is the source of getting them as a slave. But for other civilization, for other rules, even the pre-Islamic Arab, you can go anywhere, any land. If you're stronger than a man, you can capture him and you can sell him as a slave. No rule, nothing. But Islam said no. This is the only way we can have slave. You can't just catch any free people as a slave. This is not allowed. This is completely haram. That's the first thing. The second thing that Islam did, that slavery, it made in the ayah, in the Quran, in the Hadith, there is so much rewarding thing for everybody. And the treatment of the slavery, how you should treat with your slaves. If you look at this, you'll be amazed. There is a hadith in Bukhari where clearly Prophet said, your slave is your brother. Treat them as you treat yourself. Feed them as you feed. And give them clothes as you wear. So they are just exactly like your brother. The third thing is that Islam makes so many avenues to get hasana. Even the hasana, like you're going to the Jannah, and the penalties of so many sins can be done through releasing the slave. The get rid of the slave. So for example, the siyam, if you don't fast, if you cannot fast, what is the penalty for that? Either you fast for 3 days, or or make up those days, or you free a slave. So freeing a slave became a great deal in Islam. And that's why Aisha Anha and all other Sahaba, they were looking for slave. They used to get the slave and free them, because they know that this is the great way to get hasana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only that, the zakah, there are 8 categories of people you are allowed to give zakah, and one of the category is the slave. This is the third thing. The fourth thing about the slavery that Islam did is that when you became a slave, you have all the rights as a normal person, meaning to right of studying, right of seeking knowledge, right of doing all the worship that you can do. If a slave person has all the qualification, he can be an imam, he can be a sheikh, and that is why, if you look at the history, lot of scholars, not only scholars, lot of Khalifa of the Abbasiyad time, or the Usmani time, in the Ottoman time, their mothers are from the slave. Their genealogy is from the slave. And not one or two of them, many of them. Many of the Khulafa Rashidin from the, not Khulafa Rashidin, the Khulafa from Abbasiyad dynasty are from there. Not only that, even the female slave, there is another sensitive topic that the right hand possesses. What are the rules regarding that? Before pre-Islamic, you can have female slave for yourself, and you can use them to lend it to someone. Basically, you can use them to earn money. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? But in Islam, say no. If you have a female slave, which is called ama, right hand possesses, she is only yours. Okay, you can't just give it to her anybody. The next thing, if that ama gives birth to a child, automatically that is your child. He's not a slave. So by being born within a slave, he's not a slave anymore. He's already a normal person. And also the status of the lady slave, or you can say the ama, his status is not ama anymore. He became ummul walad. It's called ummul walad, meaning that he's not a wife, but it's called ummul walad, it's a high status. And the last thing that is about the slavery, that slavery is such an institution, if you take it away from Islam, Islam is not dependent on this. Meaning, it's not that slavery was at that time and it's gone now. So it doesn't mean that we have to bring it back. Our Sharia is dependent on that. If you take it off, it was there at that time because it was necessary. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this rule. Now it is not there. It doesn't mean that we are losing some part of our Sharia. Sharia is completely independent of the laws and everything of the slavery. So if someone asks us, in especially non-Muslim, or some of our youngsters, who are learning Islam recently, and they have asked, why Quran talk about, malakat aymanikum, what does it mean by right hand possesses? Are they your wives? What does this mean? So we should explain this way, because this was something that in their context, and I think around 1870, the slavery was abolished from the Muslim world, meaning the Khalifa completely demolished this one, and obviously that later on, the American society and all these things, they have abolished the slavery system, and it is not there anymore. But as I said, our Sharia is not dependent on that, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing to be, say that, okay, how come Islam do this? Rather, we should be proud that Islam is the only religion that brings so many things, so many pride and honor to this one. And that's the people who looks up to the histories and they read about the scholars. Lot of scholars, great scholars, they have written books. They are all from Ummul Walad, meaning their mother or father probably from the slave class, but later on they became free, and they became scholar just like any other person. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us to understand these things and put implication in our life. Jazakallahu khairan, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu